Welcome to today's news, and we are talking about Zoho just built its own ChatGPT inside Zoho's bold AI power play to escape big tech's AI trap. Reading to you today an article from Diginomica, found very interesting. This is not going to be a technical breakdown, never is. More has to do with just the business side of things. You know, as a business owner and user of Zoho business software, the implications of this major announcement by Zoho, and this is going to be peppered with a lot of my personal take on it. So the summary, starting out with this article, let me zoom this up for you guys. Why Zoho has built its own LLM. Let's get this a little bit bigger here for you. There we go. Why Zoho has built its own LLM, a major AI announcement from Zoho, including the launch of its own proprietary LLM, as well as a range of agents for its apps. And this was a big one for me. This will make my ears perk up. MCP support. So let's just get in this first article, which is going to break down what really is going on. Business software vendor Zoho today launches a major update to its AI offering, introducing its own proprietary LLM technology, as well as more than 25 new AI agents integrated into its applications, further enhancements to its AI agent builder, and an MCP server to connect agents to actions and data within Zoho apps. The announcement also includes new proprietary models for automated speech-to-text transcription of both English and Hindi. Named after Zoho's AI brand, the new Zia LLM has been built and trained using NVIDIA's AI-accelerated computing platform and will run in Zoho's own data centers, important in the US, India, and Europe. This entirely in-house approach is designated to protect customers' privacy, important, and Zoho's autonomy. There you go, there you go, there you go. I love that. Autonomy is big, folks, and how it operates its LLM. Trained specifically for B2B use cases. We'll get into that a little bit later. Within Zoho's environment, that's important, the B2B use cases. There are initially 3 versions of the model, 1.3 billion, that goes to the parameters. Okay, let me jump to what kind of stood out for me. Where are my notes at here? The first one has to do with, all right, this will be a new choice alongside, actually, I was getting right to it. I should have kept going. This Zoho's LLM will be rolled out to customers in the coming months and will be available as a new choice alongside existing connections to commercial and open source LLMs, including ChatGPT, Llama, Qwen, and DeepSeek. So great hedge here. Later on in this article, we're going to open that up a little bit, but they're not going to cut off anybody else. This is going to be a model that's going to be available to you, and it's going to be different as far as the features and the functionality of it. It's going to be more specific to what we use pretty much our internal and our private business software for versus what's out there on the commercial market, in regards to LLMs like Grok or Llama or ChatGPT, and the difference, there, Raju is going to go ahead and speak to that a little bit later in this article. The next thing that came out was when Raju said, like, the hype is way overboard, and at this point in the market, we are internally focusing on practical things. I love that. We are internally focusing on practical things. Okay, so not all the whiz bangs. Nobody's trying to make video games out of code and have a coding agent and this and that. We're looking at being effective and using this in a practical manner. This is business software, and we're going to use it for business reasons. So it's like, listen, all that stuff is fun. It's great. But what Zoho is going to focus on is being more practical, rational, and just pretty much what makes logical sense for your business software. So most of the agents we're focusing on, like security and all, are those that can help us on a day-to-day basis, not the overhyped Same old scenario, agents that can answer your emails, all of that. Those are good demos, but not practical. Man, my man, I love that. The way we look at the agent story is we can launch a few hundred agents included in the product contextually that can help. Contextually. So instead of, let me just pause because we're going to get into that a little bit later too as well. Where's the next one at? All right. Now moving down here, this was another one that caught my attention. Was Zoho's Agent Builder in Zia Agent Studio first announced earlier this year. Yeah, they announced the Zia Agent Studio earlier this year, and it's now updated to be fully prompt-based with the option to use low-code accessing over 700 actions across Zoho products. Again, I'm not, I don't come from the technical end, of things, but I would like to know. This would be very interesting if these agents, are able to do actions and complete tasks cross product, and also what I'm actually speculating is these agents, well, they are going to replace like a lot of what used to be done with code, because code was just pretty much written to execute tasks. And if you can pretty much just based on a prompt, like, hey, go into this app, do this, pull this from here, bring it over here, update this. When this happens, update this over there. Where you used to have to write a code deluge and scripts or functions and all that stuff. I have this saying that I said that for my software, for my use case, for my software, I swore an oath to the gods of simplicity to never write code in my instance and then in my Zoho software, because it works. I'm not saying it doesn't work. It definitely works. There are thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of users that have custom functions and code, but you got to maintain this stuff, right? You have to keep an eye on it, versus if I just stay in the system the way it comes out the box, if an update happens, I know every time I go back into a system, my blueprints are going to work. They're not going to break. Okay, because I haven't gone behind and messed with the code. But I digress. So these 700 actions across, that was the word, across. If there's going to be some cross functionality with these agents across the Zoho products, that's going to be really cool, super cool. Let's go on. Practically, the most agents going to be focused on like security. Scenarios, not practical across the whole product. Okay, the new model context protocol. Okay, the new model context protocol server gives any MCP client access to a library of actions and data across selected Zoho applications while respecting the customer's defined permission structures. MCP has been defined as industry. Again, I'm not saying there's too much technical about, but they're going to kind of bridge in here Zoho Flow 2 as well to work alongside those MCP servers. So, adopting or bringing on that, the model context protocol server, gives us the ability, if we have an external tool that we like, for like tool calling, it's what the cool kids call it. If we have an external tool that we like, we can actually bring it in, we can limit it, we can restrict it, we can put guardrails around it. So that's really cool. So again, this is kind of opening up to what, to the top 3 points of this whole article, of this whole move is, one, they're doing things internally to maintain their autonomy and not being dependent on outside vendors. But they're also opening up the system to allow us to bring in, external tools or external models if we so choose to. So that's really nice. Versus what like our guy over there, what the Salesforce do? They like cut off Slack to Gleam or somebody like that. They're like, listen, you guys can have access to this data. Hey, Benioff that's a cold dude, man. Okay, let's go on to the next part here. Okay, so why build your own LLM? Why not be like a lot of these other folks are just, bring all these large language models in. They're not going to spend the money. Love this answer or this perspective from Zoho. We are, I would say, very privacy conscious, always has been, always will be. And we're skeptical. I like this. We're skeptical about the current models, and they may simply change their licensing policy in the future and say, sorry, we are training on your data. That's big. That's huge, folks. Because they're training on our data. And then in addition to that, well, let me just give you an example. So if you're a large corporation, you have some type of secret sauce, something, proprietary that you are doing that makes you special out there in the marketplace, and you're bringing these large language models and you give them all your processes, all your workflows, and you just, let them, behind the curtain to train that model and to give that model better context to work for you. Well, guess what? They're going to feed that to any and everybody else within your category because you're training the model on it. You're training the model on your data. So it really is a trade-off. So that's problem number one, right? Giving up your secret sauce or giving up your data to these external models. Problem number two is, where are we? Because some of these companies are raising a lot of money. Look, I heard this Altman guy, Sam Altman, not this Altman guy, let me not say that. I heard Sam Altman say in some interview, in order for us to do what we're doing, we're going to have to, raise, billions or hundreds of billions or even trillions. This guy said trillions of dollars to do, for ChatGPT, to continue to grow and scale. I'm like, trillions? Really? But because some of these companies, back to what Raju was saying, because some of these companies are raising a lot of money, and that is scary, trillions of dollars, I'm telling you. At some point, the investors are going to ask for their return. And at some point, there's going to be a license change. Full stop, period. That I guarantee it. I guarantee it's coming. Everybody's happy now because it's free. They have these free models. It's open. But look, like they just came out with I think Chat did, and I think Grok also did at the time of this recording, which is mid-July 2025, like a $200 a month subscription for their best model. And I think Chat said they also have one that's going to be like 20 grand. Is it $2,000 or 20 grand a month? I think it's like $2,000 a month. $2,000 a month. So at some point, man, you're going to have to pay the piper. These companies are raising hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars. At some point, somebody's going to have to pay that money back. That money isn't growing on trees. You're getting it from investors, and somebody's going to pay it back. So that's problem number two, or feedback number two that Raju is saying in regards to why they're building their own LLM, and just saying, hey, folks, just think about two things here, and I'm sure he's, speaking to, all levels, enterprise, medium-sized businesses and small businesses. Like, one, they're going to train on your data. Two, at some point, the jig is up, man. The jig is going to be up, and you're going to have to pay up. You're going to have to pay the piper. So let me continue reading. So at some point, the investors are going to ask for the return, and at some point, there's going to be a license change. And when you're caught, and then you're caught off that. When we promise something to the customer, we want to live up to it, and if it's a black box, we cannot. So he's pretty much, I guess this is like the reason we're like building our own is because, hey, listen, well, I already said one and two, but if we're sitting on top of, if our technology is sitting on top of theirs, and we're giving you access, or we're giving you access, or we're bridging to these other models, and they increase, then we're gonna have to go ahead and increase. And Zoho has been very consistent over the decades with their pricing, very consistent, and very honorable with their pricing. So they're like, we won't be able to continue that, if these guys are going up, down, and then zigzagging with their pricing. Let me see here, and that's scary. You get caught off guard. Building its own LLM gives Zoho that essential insight into how the technology works. And it's in line with Zoho's policy of owning its own end-to-end stack, including operating its own data center rather than depending on the likes of AWS, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Azure. Important, folks. Important. Ownership, autonomy. That's why that word autonomy, every time I hear that word autonomy, it just makes my ear perk up because self-reliance, autonomy, so important. So important. So what they're doing here is consistent, and I like this play again. They're maintaining their autonomy, they're maintaining their independence, their self-reliance, but they're still willing, able to play friendly with outside external providers, as well as maintain their user privacy, allowing us to maintain our privacy and our security. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Okay, so existing policy. So if you're in a car company, you got to own the engine. If you're a car company, you got to own your own engine. And if you're a cloud company, you've got to own your own cloud. And if you're an AI company, you've got to own the heart of that. This is the long-term thing. I like that. They're always thinking long-term. These folks are always, always, always thinking long-term. They're playing the long game. What other game is there? Only the long game. In other words, we cannot depend on someone else for the core technology. Hey, man, hallelujah. We cannot depend on someone else for the core technology. Pretty much every product is going to have AI in there. That's facts, folks. It's starting now. It's going to be later. Everything is going to have AI in it to whatever extent. If you don't control that, then you're essentially a value-added reseller of the other company who owns the technology. Do we want to be a technology company or do we want to be a reseller? That's what I'm talking about. We want to be an independent technology. For us to be an independent technology, we've got to own the individual pieces so that we control the stack, and that gives us flexibility. Man, just bold, man. Just bold. Let's go. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Moving on, moving on, moving on. Where's my cursor, folks? I lost my cursor here. He believes that early indications. Yeah. So now B2B specific training. This is gonna get into a little bit of techno stuff. I'm at 17 minutes, so I'm just gonna go ahead and skip through the rest of this. I thought this was gonna be like less than 10 minutes. So let me just wrap up through this. So what's happening here is, and I'll put a link to the article. You can go ahead and jump to it. But the B2B specific training, gosh, I so hesitate to get the technical about, but there are all these benchmarks when these LLMs have their updates or whatever, these benchmarks, all these tests and how they pass and fail. And what's happening, because Zoho is building this internally, based, just for business software users. I'm just going to speak generally. Yeah, I'm going to just make it plain. So all you tech bros and tech sisters and all y'all, forgive me for just making it plain, but they're going to train their models based on business software. So what's happening is their model is scoring and doing better than external LLMs, than the big hundreds of billions of dollars, built LLMs. Zoho's model is actually scoring better because it's just doing that. It's making the main thing the main thing. It's focusing on the main thing. So for that, you definitely want to read more about this B2B specific training. But there was a wrap up here that kind of brought all these things together and summed it up. Staying in the race, and at the same time, he acknowledges the risk that Zoho may fall behind because it's not able to invest the scale of resources that the major LLM vendors are putting in, funded to the tune of billions of dollars. Or if you listen to Sam Altman, it's going to be into the trillions of dollars. But he believes it's worth the risk because of the upside of Zoho having its own technology in the race, focused on B2B market, focused on us, and not us making video games. Their LLMs is not for coding video games, or Maze, or what's that, Flappy Bird? No. Focus on a B2B market. And because Zoho also offers connections to other LLMs, He says the risk to customers is minimized. Facts. We are optimizing these LLMs for our use cases, for B2B use cases, essentially. I'm sorry, folks, I don't have my glasses on. We think this is the right seed to plant, not knowing it will grow. It's a tip. He's being honest there. We don't know nobody knows how this thing is going to go, but they're making a great play here, in my opinion. There's like a 1, 2, 3 going on here. It's a typical Zoho way where we'll see how it grows. We know if we figure it out, this is the right move, and then it will bloom into a tree at some day, but we don't see such beautiful words, but we don't see any downsides. If we end up not supporting third-party LLMs that are better well enough, then we have a risk of falling behind. I agree. So we are making sure that we support all of those at the same level, if not better than our own capabilities. Okay, an example, if we're training for benefits ability to add structured to unstructured data. Words are used to use probably to solve the use case in a very detailed manner. Use case was also offers its own. Look at this host of LLMs. Okay. Okay. So staying in the race. This was my 1, 2, 3. One, Zoho is going to have is display. Zoho is going to have its own technology in the race. Focus on the B2B market. That's one. They're going to have their own technology, their own LLM in the race. Focus on the B2B market. 2, and because Zoho also offers connections to other LLMs, it's not limited. We're not confined to just a Zoho LLM. You won't be confined to just a Zoho LLM. You have access to those other models. And 3, hey, they rarely admit, that they're not building this thing to be a general purpose. That's what I missed. There was something in as far as being a general LLM, they're making this specifically for the B2B. So they rarely admit, hands up, hey, we admit we aren't throwing billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions into this to make this a general purpose LLM. We're making this specifically for the B2B market. And oftentimes what I hear in conversations, as far as what even the big LLMs are saying, is like, listen, at a certain point in time, we're gonna have to tap out trying to be all things to all people. We're trying to make video games here with our LLMs. We're trying to, be a good copywriter with our LLMs. We're trying to generate image with our LLMs. We're trying to make videos with our LLMs. And this thing, and we're like, we can't, we're using up too much energy. We're burning through our data centers. Our compute costs are going through the roof. And that's why Sam Altman is saying he needs trillions of dollars, so, and everybody's saying behind the scenes, but kind of the quiet conversation is, hey, the real play is to kind of focus. We have to focus in somewhere. Going this general route, I mean, it's like the path to nowhere. You're just burning through a cache. So I like this play that Zoho is doing. I think it looks like to be the best of like all worlds. They definitely have to have the brains behind there to do it. And they're definitely, the most trustworthy people out there, that I would trust, I would feel comfortable with, and take their word on, when they say how and why and what their intentions are. Well, okay, folks, I've taken far too long than I expected, but that's it. Again, I'll have a link to the article down in the description. Looking forward to this. Good luck to these guys, and we'll see what's next. All right. See you in the next one. Take care.